News.mc on Monaco Info is brought to you by Monaco Legend Properties. Our exclusive interview with the personalities making the Principality.
My name is Zhang Zhang. I'm a member of the Orchestre Philharmonique de Monte-Carlo. I was born in China, in Beijing, during the Cultural Revolution. I am trained as a classical violinist, but it was only after the age of 18 I began to learn about music. I came to Monaco almost 25 years ago. On April 1st, 2000, I auditioned for the Orchestre Philharmonique de Monte-Carlo. There was more than 100 candidates. All the violinists in the world wanted to come to Monaco. And after 6 hours of audition, I was admitted as a member of the Pupille de Premier Violon. I was at the time a student at the Conservatoire de Musique in Lausanne in Switzerland. I thought I would work for 1 year and then go back to Switzerland until I finished my studies. But Monaco has a way of keeping us here because its beauty and magic is even more powerful when we're really here. When I thought I would stay for 1 or 2 years, now it's almost 25 years. Education for the Chinese civilization over thousands of years, it's considered essential. Regardless of socio-economic background, all parents understand that having children meaning to give them the best education possible, and this has been in part of our history since Confucius. I myself was born during a time when things were very chaotic. My mother was a film actress, a well-known one, and a concert pianist. I was her first child, but at the time she was interned in a working camp created for artists outside of Beijing. She was allowed to come back to Beijing to give birth to me, but after 56 days, she had to go back to the camp and having to leave me. My father was a famous violinist, and at the time, most of the orchestras stopped. Artists of Western music was considered, decadent, so they have to be re-educated. But my father was in an orchestra called the Model Orchestra, and it was the favorite orchestra of Madame Mao. This orchestra was allowed to continue to play concerts. They even were allowed to come to Europe. So when I was born, he was somewhere between Yugoslavia and Albania, all the communist brother countries. So he was touring all the time, if not outside of China, but in China. So I didn't have a home. And at this time, my grandparents, my mother's parents, were released from their working camp, which they've been sent to 3 years before, because they were both sociologues. They took me in a basket. I used to say that, I was handed over to them like a baby Moses. At this time, my family, as they were Christians since the 19th century, and mostly doctors, artists, and professors, it was a difficult time for us. I started to read before I could walk, which is not so difficult because it's ideograms, no alphabet, no spelling. I loved the Chinese language, so at the age of 3, I said I want to grow up to be a Chinese poet. But my father, even before I was born, had decided the first child, boy or girl, will be a violinist. When you talk about parents, being determined about education, he took it to another level because he had decided that because his career was, somewhat stopped by the revolution, he decided the child will be an extension of his career. The child will bring more glory and renown to him. So I really had no choice. Nobody was really interested to see if I wanted to be a musician. There was no question about it. I started to play the piano at the age of 2 and the violin at the age of 3. In the beginning was sort of easy, and also because when I was 4, my father was arrested by Madame Mao, so for a while I didn't have to play the violin because he wasn't there. I think my father was a very talented violinist and very good teacher. He had also very good students, but I'm not sure that it was a good idea that he was teaching me because he didn't treat me as another student. He treated me as a little monkey to be trained, and I say this with all honesty. I didn't receive éducation musicale. I received a dressage because he was so ambitious to produce a child that would be famous, a champion. Even so much that he decided I didn't need to go to school because I could read. So when other children were going to school, I was kept at home to play the violin. It's very difficult to say that when did I want to be a musician. It came much, much later. Before the age of 18, I was trained to play the violin. But after the age of 18, I began to learn about the art of music and what it means to be an artist musician. I became a professional violinist around the age of 15 or 16. I was working, I was able to make a living doing this. And I remember I was a kid, every day in the afternoon, I would climb on top of a wall to look at a street where children would come home from school in their uniforms. So I would watch them. That would be the highlight of my day, you know, to see these other children. I would admire them so much, coming home, laughing, playing together, and that was my dream. As I get older, I realized that it's harder and harder to go to school. But at the age of 18, I met my mentor, Sergiu Luca, who escaped the Nazis as a child from Romania. Eventually, he went to America, an amazing artist and teacher. And he was teaching in a famous private university in America, Rice University in Houston, who's known for really high level of academic excellence and very difficult to get in. But because he saw some potential in me, and I think he wanted to help me. I grew up as like a migrant child, you know, moving from country to country. When we left China, my parents didn't really know where to go. And also at the time, the policy was that they knew that people like my parents who were famous, that when they left China, they wouldn't come back. This was in 1981. So they said, you can choose between your children. Which one will go with you? One has to stay. So my father, being the practical man, I was already playing quite well the violin. He decided I would be more useful as an advertisement for his talent. So he said, we will take our daughter, and my little brother was left behind. So this was a very difficult moment. And I think Sergiu Luca, my mentor, I reminded him of himself, perhaps, as a child escaping the war. And so he wanted to help me. Now looking back, I think it was a miracle. He convinced the university to give me a chance. I had no diplomas. No high school diploma, no primary school diploma. I knew nothing. But they made an exception for me with a full scholarship. My experience, my story shows that every one of us could change the destiny of someone. If the teacher, if my mentor had said, oh, I'm so sorry, I would love to teach you, but you know, you don't have the diplomas, well, too bad. Or the university administration, because it's a teacher, behind the teacher is a strong school system and administrators. Also, we don't see them so much. And I was very lucky that at this time, the whole team of leadership in the university, they decided to give me a chance. They didn't need me. Yes, I was a good violinist, but there were other good violinists, good musicians who are also good students. You know, they were able to fit in. But I think they realized that I needed them. I think this was the most important change in my life. You know, there was a before and an after. I have no primary school or high school diploma, but I have 3 university degrees. When we study music like this, in classical music, especially instruments like violin, piano, cello, we're always learning one-on-one. It's almost like in Star Wars, you know, you have the master and you have the Padawan, you know, and this takes years. Or like the Kung Fu movies, you know, you have a master and you practice. So this was the relationship. And it's interesting because I had to take other courses. The first semester was a disaster. I didn't know anything. The teachers, they're used to having brilliant students who are the best of their lycée, you know, to come. So they said, why didn't you learn this in high school? Why didn't you? I said, well, I didn't go to high school. They said, but how did you get in? I said, well, I played the violin. They said, but you're Chinese, you know, because they're so used to seeing Chinese or Asian students being so good at school, you know, especially in America. You know, these kids born from Asian families, they're always such good students. So I broke that idea completely with alone, you know. But they helped me. And I remember there was a science professor, because I had to pass this Science 101 in order to get my, you know, diploma. I waited till as long as I could wait, the 5th year, because I didn't know any math, I didn't know algebra, and this was a level of trigonometry, much more sophisticated. So the professor said, he said, you won't remember anything. It's be useful, but doesn't matter. We will just find a way to have you memorize everything so you can get your diploma. He would give me private tutoring lessons. He was a professor of astronomy. He helped me. I don't know how I passed the test. I did, barely, but I was able to get my diploma. Of course, he said you would forget everything the next day. It was true. I forgot everything. But it was this kind of kindness, generosity, and benevolence from these teachers who wanted to help a young person. And I think that we need more and more of this. I feel very strongly about education, access to education. I think that deprivation of education is really a tragedy and a crime, whether it's due to poverty, natural disasters, or gender discrimination I've seen in parts of the world. So I feel like, and being in Monaco, I feel that when I came 25 years ago, immediately I realized that most people I met take part in some kind of philanthropy work. You know, a lot of times people will give funding, but even more precious is that people will give their time. Very quickly, I realized that this is something I want to do as well. Even though I had no personal fortune, I had a violin. I created the Jungle Music Association in 2007. We started to test this new way of creating concerts in 2005. We create musical concerts where 100% of the revenue generated of the concert are donated to an NGO, whether it's a humanitarian, ecological, or educational. I learned so much from the NGOs in Monaco, notably Mission Enfance. We worked together, you know, Ahmad, and of course, there's the foundation, the Prince. I would say that being in Monaco, I became who I was supposed to be. There were two things that helped me create jungle music. It happened around the same time. I met Sister Emmanuelle in an event in the Muséoceanographie. I think she was at the time 90 years old already. And they did a film about her life. She was there and she talked. I was inspired by her because you see that in the film, it showed that she was a young woman of society. She had a nice family, she was Belgian, and the calling came rather late. And she dropped everything, her nice life in Europe. She went to Egypt. She worked for many years living on, it's a huge garbage dump, basically, but people were living there. And she lived with them. The people she helped, she lived with them. It was only when she became 90 years old that the church said, you have to come back now, you've done enough. And her engagement and her dedication and her optimism, I really, when I met her, when I shook her hand, I really felt there's something, you know, I mean, I don't know if it's divine or something. I was very touched by her. And also, around this time, I created my first philanthropy concert. Jungle music didn't exist yet. It was on January 2005 in the Anglican Church of Monaco to raise funds to help a fishing village in Sri Lanka devastated by the Indian Ocean tsunami on December 26, 2004. I think half of the people perished. And the Anglican Church was helping them. I invited a few of my friends from the Philharmonic to say, let's play a concert, you know, let's offer a concert. And this was before the social media time, no apps, no smartphone. I remember I made a small poster, you know, and I copied it. I went door to door to all the shops, restaurants. I asked all my friends, I'll come to the concert, you know, give what you want. But all the money raised will be sent to Sri Lanka. And the church was full. And if you know the Anglican Church, it's quite big. The concert went very well. We raised much more money than we imagined. And this was a turning point for me because I realized then that with my violin, I was able to save lives. Sometimes I think people said that, yeah, one day when I have more money or when I have more... Actually, sometimes with the price of a coffee, pair of shoes, or a concert, we really can make a difference. And so the idea started, I realized that yes, of course, when there are natural disasters like that, tsunami, earthquake, the pandemic, musicians from everywhere, especially famous musicians, you know, Live 8, you know, in the COVID, you know, Lady Gaga, Lang Lang, all these people, they would give a concert, and that's really great. But what happens after? Because the people who need help, they will continually need the help. And also there every day, even without the disaster, there are people who need support because they are poor, because of climate change. So I thought, why don't we do these concerts more often? Why do we only do this when something really horrible happens? And then sort of we said, okay, we did it, that's nice, bravo. But there's a reason why, because artists cannot offer music for free all the time. We also have to work, we also have to make a living, right? So when we do these concerts, the cost of concert and the cost of the, I mean, you know, we've all participated in events, you know, it costs a lot of money to create the event sometimes. So when you take away that cost, whatever is left is given to, I mean, that's also good. I never look down on any contribution, but I wanted to create a system where we can do these concerts regularly. I wanted to experiment with a new way of creating concerts. Traditionally, the business model of live performances, whether it's music or dance or theater, is the artist, we offer our art in exchange for remuneration to make a living. And the public pay for this moment of inspiration, entertainment. Before we had kings, well, in Monaco, we play for our prince. Then it's the public, we have the ticket office. So this has been a two-way relationship model for forever, everywhere. So we experimented in adding 2 more entities to this formula to create a 4-way alliance. We invite a partner, whether it's corporate, individual, or the state, who would be responsible for the cost of creating the concert, which means the rental of the venue, technicians and the salary for the artists. All the musicians are paid the same in my concerts. And then an NGO, whether it's humanitarian, educational, or ecological, they would be present to present what they do. Why I say present is important because a lot of the smaller NGOs, they do not have the means to communicate what they do. But what they do is important. And also these NGOs, even a few thousand or even a few €100 can make a difference. These are the grassroots NGOs. In this formula, the cost is taken care of by a partner who is doing this out of sense of social responsibility, or they believe in what we do. And also maybe sometimes a brand want to be seen as doing something for the community. And also in this case, it's not just for charity, but also it's a culture event. So this way it's also good for the brands and for the corporate partnerships. During the concert, in about 15 minutes into the concert, after people are really listening, I would invite the representatives of the NGO to come on stage. A short presentation. They can show a film or pictures or talk about it. What is it that they do? And this moment, everybody's listening. And we have been doing this since 2005, 2006. Officially, jungle music was created in 2007 in Monaco. And I'm losing count a little bit because I'm doing this myself. I think the last time I counted, we've done more than 70 concerts, mostly in Monaco, but sometimes also elsewhere. And we've helped projects in about 40 countries. I think it's a model that could be used anywhere, even with amateur, because music is a universal language. We all know this, we don't need translation. There's no such thing as, oh, I don't understand it, we don't need subtitles. And a few years ago, this idea was confirmed. I was invited to a conference in Collège de France in Paris by the renowned neuroscientist, cognitive neuroscientist, Professor Stanislas Dehaene. And the conference is called Music and the Brain. And it gathered some of the top researchers from around the world. And one of the most stunning talks, presentations, was by a professor from MIT, Professor Nancy Kenwisher. Professor Kenwisher and her team a few years prior had discovered in the temporal cortex a region in our brain that responds only to music. To put it simply, that in all of our brains, it would light up in the presence of music. Not sounds, birds, traffic, no. Man-made music, created music, any kind of music, African music, Chinese music, European music. It would react only to music. Does not react to speech, so only to man-made music. And this is in all human brains. Every baby, healthy baby born, it has this. We are a musical species. Music has this power. It's not just something we do for fun. This is something that's essential to human beings. So that, of course, made me more confident to say that, we need to create more music. And especially if concerts could generate this well-being to our communities. So that's basically jungle music. Most professional orchestras would advertise when they are looking for musicians in music schools and conservatories. I heard about L'Orchestre Philharmonique de Monte-Carlo looking for violinists in my music school, in the Conservatoire de Lausanne. We would have these posters, to say, which orchestra is looking for 2 trumpets, here 3 violins. So we would have this system around the world. I didn't know anything about Monaco except in books. In Agatha Christie, Hercule Poirot would take his vacation on Monte Carlo, in movies. But I did know about the orchestra. It's a very famous orchestra. It's a very old orchestra. And at the time, the chief conductor was Maestro Marek Janowski, a very famous conductor. So I was interested by this. I think that a lot of times people are interested not only in the city, but also in the orchestra themselves. I would say that most of the time is the orchestra themselves, the conductor, and then perhaps the city. At least it's for me. So I took EasyJet. At the time, in the year 2000, it was very cheap, from Geneva to Nice. I remember the first night, I came the night before, I had the dinner at Tip Top. And then the next day, the concours was in the Salle des Variétés. We started at 8. There were so many people. And by 6 o'clock, they said, okay, we've decided these are the people we like to stay with us. And that's how I came to Monaco. I was obviously impressed by how beautiful this place is. I was living in Lausanne, so I was used to see the lake, but I see mountains, and here is the sea, And it was April, it was very beautiful. I walked around, around the casino, these are legendary places. But I really didn't think that I would stay so long because I didn't know anything about Monaco. And it's looking back, I think, wow, You know, it's been 25 years I've been here. And I have lived in Monaco longer than anywhere else in the world, you know, even in my home country, because I left China before the age of 10. I lived a few years in Southeast Asia and then some years in Canada, America, Switzerland. So like a lot of people who come to Monaco, I think that we have been to many places, we have lived in other places, we've worked in other places. And one thing we can all agree on is that why do we stay in Monaco? You know, a few years ago, I participated on the International Silk Roads Culture Expo in Dunhuang, China, in the Gobi Desert. 2,000 years ago, this was the frontier of the Silk Roads. People from Rome, from Persia, from Central Asia, even from Egypt, they would walk, and this is where they entered China. For 1,000 years, this town was so international because all the traders from everywhere would meet there and trade there. And somehow, I feel like Monaco is like the modern Dunhuang, you know, because in such a small place, we have, I believe, more than or around 140 nationalities living and working together. And as we all know that, you know, we're at a table, we're having drinks, or having tea, and if you look around, probably not everybody's from the same country. Sometimes each one represented one country. And I think there's very few places like that in the world today, where so many people from so many different places with different culture, different civilization, different belief systems can live and work together so happily. This is the magic of Monaco. When people ask me about, oh, but you know, it's such a small place, it's only for rich people, I said, no. I said, yes, there are people who are very successful who come here. But there are also young people who come here to work, like myself. There are also people who earn a salary, I would say normal people. And I never felt that I didn't have a place in Monaco because that, you know, I don't own a car, or, you know, I don't have a watch, you know, I didn't feel that because financial consideration would make a difference. I never felt that I had no place in Monaco because of that. Or I should say that Monaco is a place that welcomes everyone when they are here for a good reason. Yes, not so many Chinese in Monaco, that's true. Usually there are Chinese just about everywhere, but we don't need many when you have the best. I would like it if we had a little more Chinese food in Monaco. That's my personal hope, that, you know, there will be more Chinese restaurant or restaurant who make more Chinese food in Monaco. But Monaco is close to everywhere. I mean, from Monaco you can easily reach another city in Europe or even beyond, you know, with 2 flights. So I never felt isolated here, you know. As I said in the preface of my biography, which was published last year in Édition Fayard, called La Voie de l'Archer, The Way of the Bow, it was dedicated to Yanjing, which is the ancient name of Beijing. I said it's the land that, you know, nurtured me, and to MC, Monaco, is the country of my destiny. I feel both very Chinese, and yet at the same time, I really feel that Monaco is the first country that made me feel I could stay here. You know, because I was taken away from my home so young. For many years, I felt that I would always remain homeless. I feel like my home is my grandparents' house, but I can never return to. And I think that this is not unique. You know, a lot of people in Monaco, they've come from different parts of the world for different reasons. I have friends who, you know, had to escape Iran because of the revolution, you know, and other reasons. So I think that deep down we all remember where we come from. And I think that's very important. Last year I met some Chinese people who came. They arrived recently. Very successful people. And they were very proudly saying that they don't really feel Chinese. They don't teach their children Chinese because it's useless. And I found that to be really shocking, because if we do not honor our roots, we are nowhere. And no amount of prestige or money can provide this kind of sense of who you are. So I was quite surprised, and needless to say, I never saw them again. You know? And I think Monaco is a place where everyone could remain who they used to be, at the same time create a new life, a future here together. And when I have the chance to present the Principality, whether it's to accompany Monaco officials, ambassadors, or the tourism officials, or on my own, I always feel a sense of honor and pride. And I take this very seriously, because I think that without Monaco, I would not be who I am today. I would not realize my potential as a human being and as an artist. So I'm very grateful to Monaco, to the government of the Prince, to His Serene Highness. And this is the story. For people, a lot of people, even in France, they still think that Monaco is a place for rich people. old people, rich people, and that's not true. So when I have the chance, even in my concerts, I talk about Monaco. I said, I came to Monaco as a student with a violin. That's it. I have no family in Europe. I have no fortune. I'm not married. So Monaco, the people of Monaco, because jungle music, I had the idea, but I couldn't have created it myself. The first time I had this idea, I presented to three friends actually, on a terrace in somebody's apartment. Mr. and Mrs. Jean-Claude and Kay Eudes, and Mr. Jean Castellini. We were having dinner. I said, I have this idea. And they listened to me. And they said, that sounds like a good idea. We're going to help you. And I've met so many people who listen to me. And I think Monaco is unique in that, so that I will continue to represent the Principality to the best of my abilities. And recently I have been going to China, and the post-COVID China, which is quite special, and interacting with the Chinese artists, curators. It's been very interesting, and there's a huge interest from Chinese public for Monaco. They all know Prince Albert, because during the Beijing Winter Olympics, there was a small clip when Monseigneur was presented with a candy in the shape of a panda, I think. And Prince Albert said, could I have another one? Because I have twins. And this clip, in the same day, it became viral, as we say. I think there was 10 million people who watched it that same day. For the Chinese people, Monaco is a dream place, and Prince Albert and his family are celebrities. So there's a real interest. And in the October edition of China Wings, which is the magazine of China Airlines, I have given an exclusive interview about Monaco. And usually the readership per month is about 9.1 million. And October is a travel month because of National Day. So hopefully there will be more than 10 million people reading about Monaco. I don't think that I have the tools to really be a good teacher, especially for young children. That's a very specialized way of teaching. And the good teachers are very important, especially in the beginning. But I do give talks. I do talk about what is important. I encourage young people, young musicians. And I think that what I do best is to share this idea that music is a universal language, and that musicians are not living apart from society. Sometimes we say, but the artists, they're somewhere else. No, we are citizens. We are part of our communities and can and should participate in concrete, building of our societies. We're not separate. Jungle music projects, we do help society in a way, one project at a time, with Mission Enfance, with other organizations. We have supported schools in Afghanistan, many different places, and everybody coming together, to help someone or some group of people. Last year, I met a lady in Monaco at the Fairmont Hotel. She was over 80. She's originally from Afghanistan, from a very important Pashtun family. And in her youth, she studied as a medical scientist in Lyon, and she spent most of her career in Australia. When the Taliban returned, she decided to go back to Kabul. She opened up her family home and turned it into an underground school for girls. So herself, the teachers, and the children are risking their lives every day. But this is where we see that how important it is education. These children, they know that they want to have an education because education is power. It can lead to liberty and emancipation. And if I am able to provide some help to people who are so courageous for doing this, and I think that this is sort of my mission now. Of course, I also think, there are other causes are so important, climate change, helping the environment, endangered species. I also care a lot about the well-being of elderly people. During COVID with Madame Elżbieta Frangon, pianist, we would go play in Quai and before also in Cap Fleury and in the Prince Régnier 3, the gerontology center for the residents, for the people who are there. Even for the people who are no longer able to come to our concerts, either due to illness or old age, we can bring music to them. And sometimes the most rewarding concerts are not the most glamorous. I remember once with Madame Frangon, we were playing in Quai during lunch, and we would play songs. I would walk around to the tables, and then, Elżbieta's at the piano, and there are a lot of old ladies, and they look beautiful. Every day they come down to lunch, they're maquillés, they do their hair, they talk to their friends. It's really lovely. And one lady, she started saying, "Oh wow, this song," she said, "that you just played, it was the song I danced to one in my wedding." She was in a wheelchair and she had tears in her eyes, and we started crying. That is something I will never forget, because this is a gift of music. I think that all children are musical. all children. You know, we have this temporal cortex. We're all musical. And I encourage children to study music. Perhaps not to become professional, but to learn. Because today, you know, children with technology, they're very good. Everything happens very quickly, you know, with a click, with a swipe. Learning an instrument is still old school. It doesn't happen right away. You need to put in the work every day. And I think it builds confidence and resilience to say that some things in life takes time and effort. So I encourage children to learn any kind of music. It doesn't have to be classical, but to learn an instrument, like doing sports, you know, it's very good. Because I didn't have this kind of chance to discover music. I was trained for a purpose to compete, you know, like a champion, which I never really enjoyed. So I discovered the power of music rather late because I had a very difficult relationship with the violin. I feel like, you know, it was imposed on me and I had to do it. Eventually, I discovered that able to play the instrument can actually bring so much more. There's one thing that really helped. From 2001 to 2003, about 3 years, 2 years or 3 years, every Wednesday, I played in the Raskas, in the bar. And Wednesday nights, happy hour, that was the Zhang Zhang band. I created my band with this great jazz guitarist, Leopoldo Gianola, who was with the Blah Blah, no, not Blah Blah, Kali Gagan. I also played with Blah Blah, with all the groups that used to play in the Rascats at the time. I would go listen to them and sometimes I would play with them. So then the manager said, why don't you come and play Wednesdays, happy hour? I said, what should I play? So then I created my own band with Leopoldo, Maria Chirokoliska, the bass player who used to be soloist at OPMC. Now she's soloist at l'Orchestre National. We saw her at the Olympics when the rain was coming down. You know, she was playing the Olympics, and with other musicians. And every Wednesday, after leaving the OPMC Répétition, I would go and play there. And it's a very different experience because when we're playing on the stage in a classical concert, you know, people are nicely dressed, they see, they listen, they clap in the right moment. But when you play in a bar, people will react honestly. Not to say that classical audience are not honest, but there was not this protocol. So I realized, and most of them were my friends anyway, if the song was boring, people are turning around, they're drinking, talking. And then if the song is good, they say, you know, this is good. So then I realized, oh wow, you know, there's so many choices. And I was playing with musicians who doesn't come from the classical music background. Leo is a jazz musician. I played with Anthony Kali Gagan, who was singing reggae songs, and there was salsa music. So I think I really kind of got into being a musician. I mean, I learned from my master to love music, to respect music. But that's still classical music. But here I was playing songs, I was playing, you know, Cigane music, I was doing the French cancan, it was a lot of fun, and people reacted to it too, because they thought, you know, we mixed Vivaldi with, you know, Bob Marley. And actually, the next day, when I go back to Répétition in the orchestra, I had a different feeling. So it kind of opened up my world, you know. So I think that when people separate style of music, oh, this is serious music, this is not, no, they're just good music. Different music. It's like, you know, the Chinese, when we eat, it's not just like I eat this, you eat that, like Western food. There's a table. I eat a little bit of this, you know, that. And I think for music, the best music is a bit like that too. We exchange, we share. And once again, I feel like in Monaco, the culture of Monaco, what people represent, what people bring, I mean, the stories I learned from different people. Where do you come from? Oh, really? Tell us about where you come from. Where were you just now? Oh, I went to the... Being in... They said, oh yeah, but it's such a small country. Yes, but at the same time, I've never been to any society where it's so global. And I think this is the enchantment of Monaco that's very rare. The Orchestre Philharmonique de Monte-Carlo, as I said, one of the oldest orchestra in Europe, also very diverse, because recently we recruited new members. I think we have about 20 nationalities represented, and our chief conductor is Maître Kazuki Yamada, who is Japanese. So I think that in the Monaco Orchestra, we do see an example of the Monaco society. Only talent counts. Artists are selected from their artistry, their talent, their competence, regardless of their nationality, of their skin color, gender. And since I arrived in the last 25 years, more women musicians have won the concours than men musicians. For instance, in the first violins, we have 5 violon solo, 2 super solistes, 1 premier solo, 1 second, 1 third. When I arrived, they were all men. Now, only 1 is a boy. All the others are girls, and they're wonderful. So I recommend everybody to go see a concert of the OPMC. Every Sunday at 6 in the auditorium. We also are at the opera with the ballet. Just go to opmc.mc. Come see us. I think that the Salle Garnier of Monaco is a monument, not only in this physical beauty, but in acoustics. 25 years I've been playing opera. I'm still amazed. And we have traveled to other countries. I myself, I played in Vienna and Salzburg. Italy has some amazing, beautiful opera houses. San Carlo in Napoli is very good, La Scala, Fenice in Venice. But the Salle Garnier in Monte-Carlo is among the best. In its physical beauty and acoustics, it's a magical place. And I would say that if there's a chance for people living in Monaco to go hear a concert, it doesn't have to be an opera. Sometimes it's a jazz concert, sometimes a recital. But just to experience it, you walk in the casino, the players to the left, opera to the right, and it's like James Bond, but at the same time it's also classical music at the highest level. And there's the L'Orchestre Musicien de France, the orchestra of Madame Bartoli, and I had the chance to play with them sometimes. Very different style from the OPMC, completely different type of music, different sound. It just goes to show that in such a small country we have such richness. The Ballet de Monte-Carlo, one of the best in the world. Also, if you haven't been to the ballet, try to get to their next performance at home and come to the opera. We also do children concert Wednesday afternoons. Bring the little kids, even babies, they're welcome. People are afraid that the children will make noise. They're welcome to make noise. It's made for them. They can dance, they can sing, they can even run around out of joy. So I think this is very rare. So music is for everyone. Some people say that music is mathematical, but because, as we know, I didn't go to school, I don't know any math, so I cannot say if that's true or not. Music is a unique human expression. No other species create music. Because when we say, oh, the birds are singing, they're not singing, they're just communicating, We are the only species known to create music and share music. And the fact that we have this part in the brain that reacts to music, which means as a species, evolutionarily, music is essential to us. Of course, we have found instruments that are very old. Where does the origin of music come from? I think that's still a bit of a mystery. It's something that, especially today, I feel that even though we have technology, we have these devices that connect us with everywhere in the world, people have never been so well connected. We have access to infinite amount of data. But information is different from knowledge. Information can be shared quickly, true or false information, as we can see, but knowledge takes time. But music is something that could be shared, that's easily shared, but it's also profound, especially at a time when societies are being divided. Like I said, we're more connected than ever, but look around, there are conflicts everywhere, within countries, without, in regions, war. And it's inconceivable. And then there seems to be a direction that's going in a place where we didn't think we would see so soon after everything that's happened in the 20th century. So I think music is one of the things that could bring people back together. In a conference, you have professionals coming from the same field, or when you have a yacht show, big yacht show, but people who come here, they're related to this industry. But a concert, it's open for everyone. Different age, different background. It's for everyone. So I think that more music will create more peace. In a very modest way, I like to promote this language, and I do it when I give speeches, I give conferences. I want to remind people that what unites all of us is far greater than the things that divides us. And music is a perfect example of that.
That's all for today. Thank you for watching News.mc, your English rendezvous on Monaco Info. Discover more interviews and stories on our websites, news.mc and monacoinfo.com. This show was brought to you by Monaco Legend Properties.